Right now, someone in your life is manipulating you. Not a movie villain, not a con artist, a coworker, a friend, maybe someone you love. And here's the uncomfortable part. It's working. Because the most effective manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like a favor, a compliment, a guilt trip you think you deserve. In the next 10 minutes, I'll show you 7 tactics that psychologists have documented for decades. Tactics being used on you this week. By the end, you'll spot every single one. Stay for number 2. It's the one almost everyone falls for. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Tactic 7. The foot in the door. Let's start small, literally. In 1966, 2 Stanford researchers went door to door asking homeowners a ridiculous question. Would you put a massive, ugly billboard on your front lawn that says, "Drive carefully"? Almost everyone said no, obviously. But with a second group, they did something different. 2 weeks earlier, they asked those homeowners to display a tiny 3-inch sticker with the same message. Nearly everyone agreed, it's just a sticker. Then came the billboard request. This time, 76% said yes. 76% agreed to ruin their own lawn because they'd already said yes to something small. This is the foot in the door. Small commitments rewire how you see yourself. I'm the kind of person who supports this. And once that identity forms, bigger requests feel consistent instead of crazy. How to spot it? When a small favor is followed by a bigger one, pause. Ask yourself, would I say yes to the big request if it came first? If the answer is no, the sticker was the trap. Tactic 6. The guilt lever. After everything I've done for you. 8 words. And they can make you do almost anything. Here's a story. A woman named Sarah, not her real name, described her mother's phone calls to a therapist. Every call ended the same way. If Sarah couldn't visit that weekend, her mother would sigh and say, "It's fine, I'll just be here, alone, like always." Sarah cancelled plans, skipped work events, drove 4 hours in the rain, not because she wanted to, because the guilt was unbearable. That's the point. Guilt manipulation doesn't ask you for anything directly. It hands you a debt you never agreed to, then lets you punish yourself into paying it. Psychologists call this guilt induction, and research links it to something called unmitigated communion, caring for others so much that your own needs disappear. How to spot it? Real requests sound like requests. Can you visit this weekend? Is a request. I guess I'll just be alone again. Is a lever. If you feel like a bad person for saying no to something that was never actually asked, that's the tactic. Tactic 5. Love bombing. Imagine meeting someone who thinks you're perfect. They text you constantly, compliment everything. Within 2 weeks, they're talking about your future together. It feels like a movie. That's the problem. It feels like a movie because it's a script. Love bombing is overwhelming affection deployed early and fast. And it's not limited to romance. New friends do it. Cult recruiters are famous for it. Even some companies do it during hiring. Why does it work? Because intense affection creates intense debt. When someone puts you on a pedestal, disagreeing with them feels like knocking yourself off it. And here's the tell. The affection has terms and conditions. The moment you set a boundary, you're busy tonight, you need space, you disagree, the warmth cuts off like a light switch. Then it returns when you comply. Warmth, withdrawal, warmth, withdrawal. That's not love, that's training. How to spot it? Watch what happens the first time you say no. Genuine affection survives a boundary. Love bombing punishes it. And speaking of hot and cold, the next tactic weaponizes that exact pattern in a way casinos figured out decades ago. Tactic 4. Intermittent reinforcement. Why do people sit at slot machines for 8 hours? The machine doesn't pay out every time. That's exactly why they can't leave. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner found something strange. Animals rewarded every time they pressed a lever would eventually get bored, but animals rewarded randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, pressed the lever obsessively, almost endlessly. Unpredictable rewards create the strongest attachment known to behavioral science. Now, think about a person who's warm on Monday and cold on Wednesday, who leaves you on read for 2 days, then sends the perfect message, who criticizes you all week, then delivers one glowing compliment. You don't detach from that person, you obsess over them. Your brain treats their approval like a jackpot, rare, random, and worth chasing. Manipulators don't need to be good to you, they just need to be good to you sometimes. How to spot it? Track the pattern, not the peaks. If you're constantly working to get back to how things were at the beginning, you're not in a relationship. You're at a slot machine. Tactic 3. The reality rewrite. That never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're way too sensitive. The term gaslighting comes from a 1944 film where a husband dims the gas lights in the house, then tells his wife the flickering is in her imagination. Slowly, she stops trusting her own eyes. Modern gaslighting works the same way. It doesn't attack your choices, it attacks your memory, your perception, the evidence of your own senses, and it works on intelligent people. Sometimes, especially on intelligent people, because smart people do something dangerous. They consider other perspectives. They ask, could I be wrong? That's a strength. Gaslighting turns it into a weapon. Every time you doubt yourself even slightly, the manipulator pushes on that crack. Over months, you outsource your entire sense of reality to them. How to spot it? One disagreement about what happened is normal. A pattern where you constantly leave conversations feeling confused, apologizing without knowing why, and doubting things you clearly remember. That's the rewrite. Start writing things down. Manipulation hates a paper trail. Tactic 2. The favor trap. Here it is, the one that catches almost everyone. In the 1970s, a psychology professor named Robert Cialdini studied how the Hare Krishna movement raised millions of dollars in airports. Their secret wasn't asking for money, it was giving away flowers. A member would press a flower into a traveler's hand, a gift, free. When the traveler tried to return it, they'd refuse. It's yours. Then, and only then, came the request for a donation. Donations exploded. People gave money while visibly annoyed. Some threw the flower in the trash 10 steps later, but they still paid. Why? Reciprocity. The human brain treats an unrequested gift as a debt. We are wired across every known culture to repay what we're given. Manipulators exploit this by giving you things you never asked for: favors, gifts, compliments, help, and then cashing in. The co-worker who covers for you once, then expects your loyalty forever. The acquaintance who buys you a drink, then acts entitled to your time. The generous person whose gifts always seem to arrive right before their requests. How to spot it? Notice how the gift makes you feel. Gratitude feels warm. Obligation feels heavy. If a favor comes with an invisible invoice, if you feel managed rather than appreciated, you're allowed to decline the debt. You never signed for it. Tactic 1. The manufactured emergency. Every scam, every high-pressure sale, and every controlling relationship shares one ingredient: urgency. This deal ends tonight. I need an answer right now. If you really cared, you wouldn't need time to think. Here's why it's number 1. Every other tactic on this list has a natural enemy: time. Given a day to think, you spot the guilt trip. You notice the pattern. You remember what actually happened. Manipulators know this. So the final move, the master move, is to delete your thinking time. Fraud investigators say the same thing about victims of scams. The victims weren't stupid. They were rushed. Panic narrows the brain's focus to the immediate threat, and the manipulator positions themselves as the only exit. Real opportunities survive a night of sleep. Real love survives a week of thought. Real emergencies are almost never solved by you sending money or saying yes in the next 10 minutes. How to spot it? Urgency plus pressure equals a red flag every time. The phrase, "I need to think about it," is a manipulation detector. Say it and watch what happens. An honest person accepts it. A manipulator escalates. 7 tactics, one common thread. Every single one bypasses your thinking and hijacks your feelings. Guilt, obligation, confusion, panic, affection. So here's the master defense, and it costs nothing. When you feel a sudden, strong emotional pull to do something for someone, pause. One breath, one question. Would I still do this tomorrow? Manipulation almost never survives that question. Genuine relationships always do. If this opened your eyes, do 2 things. First, comment the number of the tactic you've experienced. Just the number. You'll be surprised how many people reply all 7. Second, subscribe. Every week we break down the psychology hiding in plain sight, the tricks, the biases, and the patterns running your decisions without your permission. Next week, the psychological reason you rehearse arguments in the shower with people you'll never confront. It says more about your brain than you think. See you there.